There is a continuous, low-frequency noise running in the background of your mind right now. As you listen to these words, a second, invisible layer of activity is operating inside your head. It's analyzing the cadence of my voice. It's measuring the weight of your day. It's calculating what you need to prepare for dinner, running through an unresolved argument from 3 weeks ago, or subtly stoking an underlying fire of anxiety about what next month holds. You have lived with this voice for so long that you've accepted it as an unalterable law of your existence. You treat it not as a guest inside your head, but as you. Think back to last Thursday. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. The house was dead silent. The world outside was completely asleep, but you were wide awake. Why? Because that voice inside your skull decided, without your permission, that 3 in the morning was the ideal time to open up a mental spreadsheet of every pending task, every unpaid bill, every awkward interaction, and every worst-case scenario that could possibly unfold over the next 5 years. It didn't ask if you were tired. It didn't care that you had a long day ahead of you. It simply hijacked your consciousness and forced you to sit in the front row of a horror movie starring your own imagination, and it doesn't stop when the sun comes up. It follows you into the shower. You're standing under hot water, but mentally you aren't in the bathroom at all. You're already at your desk, arguing with a co-worker about an email that hasn't even been sent. It joins you at the dinner table. The food in front of you is incredible. The lighting is warm. The people you love most in this world are sitting right next to you, sharing their day, laughing, reaching out for your connection. But you're only 20% present. The remaining 80% of your awareness has left the room. It's out in the parking lot of your mind, rehearsing a difficult conversation you have to hold next Tuesday, or agonizing over a mistake you made in 2018. Ask yourself this question, and take a moment to really answer it. When was the last time you experienced 10 continuous minutes of absolute, unadulterated silence? I'm not talking about putting on noise-canceling headphones to drown out the world with music or a podcast. I'm not talking about the passive, numbing trance of scrolling through video feeds on your phone until your eyes burn before turning off the light. I am talking about true, deep, crystalline silence. The kind of silence where the internal machinery in your brain completely slows down, where the commentator in your head finally goes quiet. The kind of silence where you suddenly realize that you are right here, fully alive, entirely present, anchored to this single, precious second of time. If you have to struggle to recall the last time that happened, or if you can't remember a single moment like that in your entire adult life, know this: you are not broken. And you are not alone. The vast majority of the human population is not actually experiencing life. They are merely narrating it. We live trapped in an unending internal monologue. We translate raw reality into a stream of words, labels, judgments, and categories. We look at a sunset and immediately feel the urge to label it pretty, take a photo, or wonder if we'll see another one tomorrow, rather than simply absorbing the sheer reality of the light. We analyze what already happened, we project what's coming next, and we spend our precious energy constantly measuring the painful gap between where we are right now and where we think we should be. We spend decades caught in a subtle, dangerous trap. We tell ourselves, if I can just work a little harder, if I can just get through this quarter, if I can just organize my life better, fix my finances, buy that house, or find the right partner, then my mind will finally settle down. Then I'll finally earn my peace. So you push forward. You hustle. You sacrifice sleep, presence, and connection. You conquer the obstacle. You cross the finish line you set for yourself 5 years ago, and what happens? For about 30 seconds, you feel a brief wave of relief. But before the dust even settles, the mental machinery kicks back into gear. It moves the goalposts. It immediately identifies the next problem to solve, the next target to hit, the next vulnerability to protect, and the next catastrophe to prevent. The peace you worked so hard to achieve vanishes like a mirage the moment you step toward it. Why does this happen? Why does achieving our goals fail to bring us lasting calm? Because peace was never an outcome to be earned in the future. Peace is a state of awareness that can only exist in the present. But as long as you believe that you are the voice in your head, you will remain a prisoner to a machine that is perpetually programmed to seek problems. To break free from a trap, you first have to understand how the trap was built. Where did this relentless voice come from? Why did human consciousness evolve to become its own worst enemy? To understand this, we have to look back at the evolutionary history of the human brain. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival was a razor's edge. Your ancestors lived in an environment filled with apex predators, unpredictable weather, scarce food supplies, and rival tribes. In that world, an optimistic brain was a dead brain if a primitive human heard a rustle in the bushes and thought, "Oh, that's probably just a gentle summer breeze," and it turned out to be a saber-toothed cat. That human was eliminated from the gene pool. However, if a human heard that same rustle and thought, "That's a predator coming to kill me," and ran away even if it was just the wind, 99 times out of 100 that humans survived. We are the descendants of the paranoid humans. We inherited a brain that evolved primarily as a threat detection engine. Its biological mandate is not to make you happy, fulfilled, or peaceful. Its objective is to keep you alive long enough to pass on your genes. To accomplish this, your brain operates as a constant projection machine. It takes past data, analyzes present variables, and projects thousands of potential future scenarios, constantly asking one fundamental question: what could go wrong here, and how do I prevent it? This mechanism was brilliant when the threats were physical, immediate, and tangible. But fast forward to the modern world, you no longer wake up in a cave worrying about big cats or harsh winters. You wake up in a climate-controlled room with soft bedding and access to clean water. Yet, your threat detection engine is still running at maximum capacity. In the absence of physical predators, the threat detection engine turns inward. It takes harmless, abstract modern variables and treats them as life or death crises. An unanswered text message from a friend becomes an existential threat of social rejection. A subtle shift in your boss's tone during a staff meeting becomes an immediate threat of financial ruin and starvation. A minor physical ache becomes an impending medical disaster. Your brain takes these thoughts, runs them through your nervous system, and floods your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline, the exact same stress hormones your ancestors used to fight off wild animals. You are sitting safely on a comfortable couch, but your body is physiologically reacting as if you are being hunted through a jungle. And here is the most insidious part of the entire dynamic. The brain cannot distinguish between a real physical event and a vividly imagined thought. If you sit in a chair right now and vividly imagine walking to the edge of a 100-foot cliff and looking down, your heart rate will elevate. Your palms will sweat. Your body reacts to the thought as if it were a physical reality. Now, multiply that effect by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You are constantly poisoning your physical body with the chemical stress generated by imaginary problems created by a threat detection engine that doesn't know how to turn off. We have built a world of unprecedented physical comfort, yet we live in an epidemic of internal psychological torture. We are overstimulated, hyperconnected, chronologically exhausted, and mentally fractured. We carry around supercomputers in our pockets that deliver the sum total of human knowledge to our fingertips. Yet we cannot find the internal space to sit quietly in a room for 5 minutes without feeling an overwhelming urge to reach for a screen to escape ourselves. We are running away from our own internal noise. But no matter how fast you run, how far you travel, or how much you achieve, you're always bringing the runner with you. Let me share a story that illustrates the absurdity of how we live. A few years ago, I traveled to Italy. For as long as I could remember, I had wanted to visit Florence. I had read about its history, studied its art, and dreamed about what it would feel like to stand among those ancient streets. After months of saving money and planning the trip, I finally arrived. It was a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. The sky was a clear, brilliant blue. I sat down at a small outdoor cafe near a quiet piazza. The espresso in front of you smelled rich and dark. The sunlight was hitting the warm, weathered stone of centuries-old buildings. People were strolling past, chatting in low, musical tones. It was, by every objective metric, a perfect moment. It was everything I had envisioned for years. I took a sip of the coffee, leaned back in my chair, and looked around. And then, like a cold splash of water, a sudden, uncomfortable realization hit me right in the chest. I wasn't actually there. Oh, my physical frame was occupying that wooden chair. My eyes were receiving the light from the buildings. My taste buds were registering the coffee. But the conscious experiencing entity was completely absent. Where was I? My mind was 1,000 miles away, back home at my desk. It was obsessing over a project deadline I had left behind. It was drafting mental emails to resolve a minor administrative conflict. It was calculating how much money I was spending on the trip and worrying about whether I would be too tired to handle my schedule when I returned. I had spent thousands of dollars, flown across an ocean, and navigated crowded airports to stand in a place I had dreamed about for a decade. And when I finally got there, I managed to miss it entirely. I was physically in Florence, but psychologically stuck in an office building in North America. That moment opened up an unsettling question in my mind. How many other moments of my life have I completely missed? How many dinners with my family have I walked through? How many walks in the woods have I spent staring at the dirt while arguing with ghost versions of people in my head? How many sunrises have I ignored while checking my phone? How much of my actual, limited, non-renewable lifespan have I traded away for imaginary mental simulations that yielded nothing but exhaustion? You see, peace does not arrive with a change of geography. It doesn't magically appear when you step off a plane in a tropical paradise, when you finally get the keys to your dream home, or when your bank account crosses a certain numerical threshold. If you take an anxious, compulsive, hyperactive mind to a beach in Hawaii, all you have is an anxious, compulsive, hyperactive mind on a beach in Hawaii. You will sit under a palm tree and worrying about the sand, the weather, your retirement fund, or whether you remembered to lock the front door back home. The problem was never your location. The problem was never your circumstances. The problem was your mind's compulsive, deeply ingrained habit of living anywhere, anytime, except right here, right now. Most people go through their entire lives without ever making one critical distinction. And because they fail to make this distinction, they remain trapped in suffering from the day they are born to the day they die. The distinction is this: there is a fundamental difference between your thoughts and you. Read that again. Let it sink in. You are not your mind. From early childhood, we are taught to identify completely with the contents of our intellect. We say things like, I am anxious, I am angry, I am a failure, I am confused. Notice the language we use. We don't say, I am experiencing a temporary thought of anxiety. We say, I am anxious. We merge our very identity, our core sense of self, with the transient, erratic weather patterns passing through our brains. If a storm rolls through your city, bringing dark clouds, thunder, and heavy rain, you don't look up at the sky and say, the sky has permanently become a storm. You know that the sky is the vast, spacious backdrop in which the storm is temporarily occurring. The storm comes, the storm moves through, and the storm passes. The sky remains unchanged, untouched, and undamaged by the lightning that streaks across it. Your consciousness is the sky. Your thoughts, emotions, fears, and internal monologues are merely the weather. Let's test this right now with a simple, direct exercise. You don't need to close your eyes, and you don't need any special training. Just pause for a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself this specific question: what will my next thought be? Ask it internally and then become intensely alert. Watch your mind the way a cat watches a mouse hole, waiting to see what pops out. What happened? For most people, when they ask that question and genuinely pay attention, something extraordinary occurs. The mind goes completely silent for 2, 3, maybe 5 seconds. The internal commentator vanishes. There is an abrupt pause in the chatter. A gap opens up a clear, spacious window of pure awareness. Now, ask yourself another question during those for seconds of complete mental silence. Were you still there? Did you vanish because the voice stopped? Of course not. You were still alive, still awake, still perceiving, still completely conscious. In fact, you were probably more alert and more alive in those for seconds of silence than you were during the 10 minutes of mental chatter that preceded it. That simple experiment proves a monumental truth. You exist independently of your thoughts if you can stop thinking and still exist. If you can observe a thought as it arises, floats across your awareness, and dissolves, then you cannot possibly be the thought. The thought is the object being observed. You are the subject of the conscious awareness, the silent witness observing it. When you realize this, the entire foundation of your psychological suffering begins to crumble. When an anxious thought arises, say, "What if I lose my job and lose everything?" You no longer have to grab onto that thought, pull it close to your chest, and panic. You can simply look at it from the spacious vantage point of the witness and say, "Ah, look at that. My threat detection system is producing an anxious thought again. How interesting." You don't fight it. You don't try to suppress it. You don't argue with it. You simply observe it, let it exist, and allow it to pass through your awareness like a cloud floating across an open sky. You are no longer the actor screaming in the middle of the theatrical drama. You have stepped out of the play, walked up the aisle, and taken your seat in the audience. The play is still happening on stage, but you are no longer consumed by it. You are simply watching. To understand why we have become so hopelessly addicted to thinking, we have to look at the nature of tools. Imagine you bought a high-end power drill. It's a magnificent piece of engineering. It can bore through solid steel, drive screws into hardwoods, and construct complex structures. It is incredibly useful when you need to build something. Now, imagine that after you finish building a bookshelf, you don't put the drill down, you keep it running. You carry it with you to the kitchen, holding the trigger down while it whirs loudly. You take it to bed with you, the motor humming against your pillow. You hold it while trying to talk to your spouse, the drill bit spinning inches from their face. If someone saw you doing this, they would call an ambulance. They would say, "Why are you holding that power tool? Put it down. You only use it when you have a hole to drill." Yet, this is precisely how 89% of humanity treats the intellect. The mind is a power tool. It is an astonishing, brilliant, biological computer. When you need to solve a technical problem, balance your budget, design a building, write a contract, or plan a route across the country, you pull out your intellect, plug it in, and use it. It is unmatched in its power, but when the task is finished, you are supposed to put it down. When you're sitting at the dinner table eating a meal, there is no technical problem to solve. You don't need the power drill. When you're walking through a park, looking at the trees, there is no calculation required. When you're lying in bed at night trying to rest your physical body, the tool should be placed neatly on the shelf. Instead, we leave the trigger pulled 24 hours a day. The motor is overheating. The gears are grinding. The noise is deafening. And we wonder why we are exhausted, irritable, anxious, and sick. We have forgotten how to put the tool down because we have made the mistake of believing that we are the tool. We suffer from a compulsive addiction to thinking. And like any addiction, it provides a short-term sense of control while destroying our long-term health. When a problem appears in your life, your mind immediately screams, "Think about me. Analyze me. Worrying about me? Roll me around in your head 10,000 times." And you obey. You think about the problem over and over, believing that the sheer volume of your worrying will somehow force a solution to manifest. But worrying has never solved a problem in the history of the human race. Action solves problems. Creative insight solves problems. Calm, focused analysis solves problems. Worrying is simply the engine running in neutral, burning fuel, overheating the system, and going absolutely nowhere. Now, we must address a deeper, darker layer of this machinery. If intellectual chatter were the only issue, breaking free would be relatively easy. You could simply read about these concepts, agree with the logic, and live in quiet presence for the rest of your days, but most people notice that even after they understand this intellectually, they still get pulled back into deep wells of anger, sadness, anxiety, and despair. Why? Because beneath the stream of words in your head lies a heavy reservoir of unresolved physical and emotional energy. Every time you experienced a moment of deep pain, fear, rejection, grief, or shame in your past, especially during your impressionable childhood years, that experience produced a powerful wave of emotional energy in your body. If you were a young child and your parents divorced, or you were bullied at school, or you felt abandoned, you did not possess the psychological architecture or the safe environment required to fully process that emotion. You couldn't sit with it, understand it, and let it move through you. So, what did you do? You did what every human child does to survive. You repressed it. You tightened your chest, clenched your stomach, swallowed your tears, and pushed that raw, unbearable emotional pain down into the dark basement of your physical body and subconscious mind. You survived the event. You grew up. You put on adult clothes, got a job, and learned to speak politely. But that repressed emotional energy didn't magically dissolve. It remained trapped in your tissues, your nervous system, and your muscular armor over decades. As life delivers more bumps, disappointments, and heartbreaks, these trapped emotional pockets accumulate. They coalesce into what we can think of as an invisible, secondary entity living inside you, an accumulated body of emotional pain. And here is the crucial thing you must understand about this emotional shadow. It wants to survive. How does a structure of emotional pain survive inside a human being? It survives by feeding on compatible emotional energy. Anxiety feeds on thoughts of danger. Anger feeds on thoughts of injustice and resentment. Depression feeds on thoughts of hopelessness and worthlessness. Self-pity feeds on stories of being mistreated. Your emotional pain body cannot feed on peace, joy, or present moment awareness. To it, presence is poison. Silence is death. Therefore, when your pain body wakes up from its dormant state, which happens periodically, it needs a fix. It needs food. And to get that food, it reaches up and hijacks your thinking mind. Have you ever experienced a day where you woke up feeling completely fine, but by noon, a sudden, heavy dark cloud descended over your mood? There was no obvious trigger. No disaster happened. Yet, suddenly, you felt deeply irritable, hopeless, or angry. If you pay close attention in those moments, you will notice what happens next. Your mind immediately begins generating thoughts that match the dark mood. It starts looking for things to be angry about. It remembers something your spouse said 3 days ago and suddenly finds it unforgivable. It looks at your career and decides everything is a failure. It looks in the mirror and picks apart your appearance. Notice the sequence. The thought didn't cause the emotion. The trapped emotion woke up, demanded food, and forced your mind to produce thoughts that would generate more pain. It is an internal parasite. It tricks you into thinking that you are the one who wants to be angry. You are the one who wants to worry. You are the one who wants to replay that old hurt. It gets you to buy into the drama. Because as long as you are actively thinking angry or anxious thoughts, you are generating fresh emotional suffering, and the pain body gets to feast for another day. This is why arguments in relationships can turn absurd so quickly. To people enter a conversation with good intentions. Suddenly, one person says something slightly off-key. A trigger is pressed. One person's pain body wakes up. It grabs control of their voice, their posture, and their intellect. Within 2 minutes, they aren't having a rational conversation between two adults anymore. They are witnessing a collision between two activated pain bodies, both seeking to inflict and absorb maximum emotional damage. After the storm passes and the pain body is full and goes back to sleep, the person looks back at what they said and thought, feeling a wave of confusion and regret. Why did I react like that? What came over me? What came over you was an ancient, accumulated wave of pain that used your mind and your voice to feed itself. Here lies the greatest trap in modern psychology and self-improvement. You cannot heal emotional pain through intellectual analysis. We live in a culture that worships the intellect. We believe that if we can just analyze a problem enough, categorize it, name it, trace it back to its origins, and write a thesis about it, it will vanish. So, people go to therapy for 10 years. They read dozens of books on trauma, attachment styles, and family dynamics. They can give you an eloquent 2-hour lecture on exactly why they have boundary issues, tracing it back to an event that happened when they were 7 years old on a playground. They have a complete, impeccably detailed intellectual map of their damage. And yet, when their partner doesn't text them back within 20 minutes, they still fall into the exact same panic attack. They still feel the same burning rage. They still act out the same destructive behaviors. Why? Because knowing the history of a fire does not extinguish the flames. Intellectual analysis operates entirely in the head, but emotional pain does not live in the head. It lives in the body. Your intellect can talk about the pain forever, but talking about a burn on your arm doesn't heal the tissue. The mind loves to analyze pain because by analyzing it, the mind stays in control. The mind turns the pain into a story, an abstract concept, a topic of conversation. It says, "Look at me, I'm working on myself. I'm analyzing my wounds." Meanwhile, down in the chest, down in the belly, down in the nervous system, the raw, unprocessed emotional energy remains completely untouched. Frozen in time. If you want to dissolve the accumulated pain of your past, you have to abandon the story and meet the sensation the next time a heavy emotional wave hits you, whether it's a surge of sudden anxiety, a pit of depression, or a flare of anger. Do something radical. Stop talking. Stop analyzing. Do not call a friend to complain. Do not write in your journal about who wronged you. Do not try to figure out why you feel this way. Put down the story entirely. Instead, turn your entire light of attention inward toward your physical body. Locate the emotion physically. Where is it? Is it a tight, constricted band around your chest? Is it a heavy, cold weight in the pit of your stomach? Is it a hot, burning knot in your throat? Is it a tension in your jaw? Find it. Point your internal camera right at it. Now, do the hardest thing a human being can do. Sit with that physical sensation and allow it to be there. Do not label it bad. Do not demand that it leave. Do not try to fix it, smooth it over, or change it into a positive emotion. Treat it like a young child that has run into the room crying. You don't yell at the child to stop crying. You don't lecture the child on why crying is illogical. You simply wrap your arms around the child, hold them close, and let them cry for as long as they need to. Your repressed emotional pain is that child. It is a fragment of your own consciousness that got frozen in time years ago because no one was there to hold space for it. When you sit quietly and bring your pure, non-judgmental awareness to the physical sensation of your pain, something miraculous happens. You break the circuit because you aren't feeding it with negative stories in your head. The pain body has no new fuel. And because you aren't suppressing it or running away from it, the trapped energy finally finds a channel through which it can move. It may feel uncomfortable at first. The sensation may intensify for a few minutes. You might feel a sudden urge to cry, to shake, or to breathe deeply. Let it happen. Let the energy move through the physical vessel. If you can stay present with a physical sensation of emotional pain for just 10 minutes without generating a story about it, you will feel that sensation begin to soften, shift, and disperse. You don't heal by thinking. You heal by feeling with presence. Now, let us step into the most profound, fundamental truth of human existence, a realization that, once fully understood, changes everything about how you experience life on this planet. The mind maintains its tyrannical control over your life through one primary illusion, the illusion of time. We must draw a clear, sharp line between two vastly different concepts, clock time and psychological time. Clock time is practical, functional, and necessary. It is an agreement we use to navigate the physical world. Clock time is knowing that your train leaves at 4:15 p.m. It's scheduling a doctor's appointment for next. Thursday at 10 a.m., it's remembering that your rent is due on the 1st of the month. It's analyzing past data to build a better bridge or design a better budget. You step into clock time to manage the practical affairs of your daily existence. And once the task is complete, you immediately step back into the present moment. This is healthy, normal, and essential for living in a complex society. Psychological time, however, is a disease of the mind. Psychological time occurs when your awareness abandons the actual reality of the present moment and moves permanently into the remembered past or the imagined future. It is the person who spent 10 years in a relationship that ended 5 years ago, but who spends 2 hours every night lying in bed, replaying the breakup arguments, asking why did they do that to me, and rebuilding the grief over and over again. The relationship is long gone in physical reality, but in psychological time, they are being tortured by it every single night. It is the entrepreneur who is so consumed by anxiety over where their company will be 5 years from now that they cannot sit down and enjoy playing building blocks on the floor with their 4-year-old child. Their physical body is on the rug in a warm living room, but psychologically, they are living in an imaginary boardroom in the year 2031. It is the endless, compulsive habit of mentally living 3 steps ahead, 2 years behind, or anywhere else except right where your feet are planted. Consider this fundamental truth and test it against your own direct experience. Has there ever been a single moment in your entire life where you were not in the present moment? Can you perform an action in the past? No. When you did it, it was the present. Can you experience anything in the future? No. When the future arrives, it arrives as the present. The past is nothing more than a memory trace, a neurological firing pattern occurring right now. In the present moment, the future is nothing more than a mental projection, an imagined scenario occurring right now. In the present moment, the past and the future have no independent reality of their own. They are abstract mental concepts. The only thing that actually exists, the only place where life has ever happened, is happening, or will ever happen, is the now. The now is not a brief, fleeting milestone on a long timeline stretching from birth to death. The now is the timeline. It is the spacious, eternal backdrop in which the entirety of human existence unfolds. Yet, look at how the average human treats this singular reality. We treat the present moment as if it were a cheap, inconvenient waiting room. We are constantly leaning forward into the next moment. We treat this moment as an obstacle that stands between us and some future moment that we believe will be better, richer, safer, or more peaceful. We say, I just have to get through this traffic jam. Then my day can start. I just have to get through this work week. Then I can enjoy the weekend. I just have to get through these next 10 years of grinding. Then I can finally retire and be at peace. Do you see the tragedy of this design? If you treat the present moment as a waiting room, you are treating your entire life as a waiting room. Because your life consists of nothing but an unbroken series of present moments. If you are incapable of finding peace right now while sitting in your car, while washing the dishes, while standing in line at the grocery store, while dealing with a messy inbox, you will be incapable of finding peace when you reach your grand future goals, because when those future goals arrive, they won't arrive as some magical, ethereal dimension. They will arrive as a simple, ordinary present moment complete with its own set of small inconveniences, physical needs, and practical demands. And if your mind is trained to reject the present moment in search of something else, it will instantly reject that future moment as well. Looking ahead to the next horizon, you will spend your whole life preparing to live, but never actually living. Let's examine this waiting room mentality closer, because it is the subtle thief that steals our brief time on Earth. Imagine a man named David. David is 42 years old. He has a solid career in middle management, a comfortable suburban home, a reliable car, and a healthy family. By any historical standard, David lives with a level of luxury, safety, and abundance that ancient kings could only dream of. Yet, If you look into David's mind on an average Tuesday, he is profoundly miserable. In the morning, David sits in traffic on his way to work. His hands are gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles are white. His blood pressure is elevated. He is furious at the cars in front of him. Why? Because his mind is entirely fixated on a destination 20 minutes in the future. He is rejecting the reality of the traffic. He is living in psychological time, fighting against what is. He gets to his office. He sits at his desk, but he doesn't want to be at his desk. He wants to be finished with his workload. He rushes through his tasks, feeling a constant underlying hum of panic and irritation. He eats his lunch at his desk, barely tasting his food, while scrolling through news headlines on his phone, absorbing fresh doses of global anxiety. He finishes his workday and drives home. But on the drive home, he isn't present for the drive. He is mentally running through the chores he has to complete at home. He gets home. He plays with his kids for 15 minutes, but his mind is pulled toward his phone, wondering if an important work email came in. He lies down in bed at night. He is exhausted. He desperately wants to sleep. But the moment his head hits the pillow, his mind realizes it finally has his undivided attention. It opens up the archives. It starts replaying a conversation from 5 years ago. It starts projecting worst-case scenarios about his retirement fund 20 years from now. David sleeps for 5 fitful hours, wakes up to his alarm, and repeats the entire cycle. David is not living a life. David is enduring an endless sentence in a psychological waiting room. He is waiting for the weekend. The weekend comes, and he spends it worrying about Monday. He is waiting for his annual vacation. The vacation comes, and he spends it worrying about his return flight and his inbox. He is waiting for retirement. And when retirement finally comes, David will sit in a chair in his backyard, look back over his life, and realize with a cold, terrifying clarity that his entire existence passed by while he was busy looking for something else. He was waiting for his life to start, never realizing that the waiting was his life. This is the hidden cost of living in the mind. It doesn't just make you anxious. It robs you of your actual existence. It turns your precious, miraculous, brief flash of awareness on this planet into a blurred, forgotten blur of internal stress. How do we break out of David's trap? How do we tear down the walls of the psychological waiting room? It doesn't require quitting your job, moving to a monastery in the Himalayas, or changing your outward circumstances. It requires a radical shift in your internal stance toward reality. You must learn to say a complete, unconditional yes to whatever the present moment contains. Most of our psychological suffering can be reduced to a simple mathematical formula. Suffering equals pain x resistance. Pain is an inevitable part of the physical world. If you stub your toe, that's physical pain. If someone you love passes away, that's emotional pain. If your business fails, that's situational pain. Pain is built into the fabric of life. Resistance, however, is purely optional. Resistance is the mind's hysterical, useless temper tantrum against reality. Resistance is the internal voice screaming, "This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be stuck in traffic. This person shouldn't have said that to me. My body shouldn't feel tired. This weather shouldn't be raining." Notice what resistance is doing. It is arguing with a reality that has already occurred. The traffic jam is already happening. The person has already spoken the words. The rain is already falling. When you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Your argument cannot change the fact that the event has happened. All your internal resistance does is take the raw, manageable pain of the situation and multiply it by a factor of 10, turning it into long-term psychological suffering. Radical acceptance means dropping the useless war against what is. It means looking at the present moment regardless of whether it is pleasant, neutral, or deeply uncomfortable, and accepting it as if you had chosen it yourself. If you are stuck in a massive traffic jam on the highway, you have two choices. Option A, you can grip the steering wheel, curse the drivers around you, feel your heart race, flood your body with stress hormones, ruin your morning. and arrive at your destination exhausted and bitter. The traffic jams still happened. Option B, you can look at the long line of red taillights, take a deep breath, and acknowledge reality. Okay. The reality of this moment is that I am sitting in a car that is not moving. I cannot physically alter the flow of traffic right now. Resistance is useless. You release the tension in your shoulders. You unclamp your hands from the wheel. You drop into the reality of the present moment. You listen to the hum of your car's engine. You feel the support of the seat beneath you. You observe your own breath. You turn an hour of frustrating delay into an hour of quiet, conscious presence. The traffic jams still happened, but your suffering vanished. Closing parenthesis. Notice that radical acceptance is not passivity. It is not weak resignation. It does not mean you become a doormat and let people mistreat you. Nor does it mean you give up on improving your life if your house is filling up with water from a burst pipe. Radical acceptance does not mean you sit in a chair and say, "Well, I guess my living room is a lake now. I just have to accept it." Radical acceptance means you accept the immediate reality that the pipe has burst, without throwing an internal temper tantrum, without panicking, and without screaming, "Why does this always happen to me?" By eliminating the chaotic noise of mental resistance, your mind becomes instantly clear, calm, and sharp. And from that state of calm clarity, you stand up, walk over, and turn off the main water valve with efficiency and precision. Action born from calm presence is 10 times more powerful than action born from reactive mental panic. How do we practice this in our noisy, chaotic daily lives? How do we anchor ourselves to the present moment when the gravity of our automatic mind is constantly trying to pull us back into the storm? You do not need hours of free time. You do not need a special cushion or a quiet room. You simply need to build small, effortless awareness anchors into your daily routine. Here are 3 simple, incredibly powerful practical tools you can start using today. 1. The inner body anchor. Your physical body is the ultimate anchor to the present moment. Why? Because your mind can travel to the past or the future, but your physical body can only exist right here, right now. Your body cannot be in yesterday or tomorrow. It is permanently locked in the now. Whenever you feel yourself getting swept up in mental worrying, shift your attention away from the words in your head and direct it into the physical interior of your body. Close your eyes for 5 seconds or keep them open if you're in public and ask yourself, "Can I feel the life inside my hands?" Don't move your fingers. Don't look at them. Just feel them from the inside out. You will notice a subtle, microscopic tingling sensation, a gentle warmth, a quiet vibration. That is the energy of life running through your physical tissues. Now, spread that field of awareness. Feel the life in your feet. Feel the life in your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Feel the subtle rise and fall of your abdomen as you breathe. The moment you occupy your physical body from the inside, you pull a massive amount of electrical energy away from the overthinking center of your brain. You cannot be intensely aware of the inner field of your body and carry on a chaotic mental argument at the same time. The inner body acts as a lightning rod, grounding your awareness safely in the present moment. Point 2. The conscious breath. Breathing is a unique physiological process. It happens automatically on autopilot, but you can also consciously control it whenever you choose. This makes your breath the ultimate bridge between your unconscious mind and your conscious awareness. Most anxious, overthinking people take shallow, rapid chest breaths without realizing it. This sends a constant signal to the nervous system that a threat is present. To use the breath as an anchor, practice what I call the 3-second reset. Stop whatever you are doing. Take 1 deep, slow inhalation through your nose, letting your belly expand fully like a balloon. Pause at the top of the breath for just 1 second. Then, release the air slowly through your mouth, letting your shoulders drop completely. As the air leaves your lungs, imagine you are releasing the accumulated mental tension of the entire day. If you do this just 5 times a day, before you start your car, before you open an email, before you answer a phone call, before you speak to your spouse, you break the momentum of your automatic mind. You create small, clean gaps of pure presence in your day. 3. conscious perception will spend most of our lives looking through things rather than looking at them. We glance at a tree, our mind labels it tree, and we move on. We glance at a person, our mind labels them, and we move on. Conscious perception means dropping the labels and using your physical senses to experience the world directly. Pick up an ordinary object near you right now: a pen, a coffee cup, a wooden block, a stone. Look at it as if you were an alien who just landed on planet Earth and had never seen an object like this before. Examine its texture. Look at how the light hits its edges. Feel its weight in your hand. Notice its temperature. Observe the subtle imperfections on its surface. For 20 seconds, refrain from naming it or judging it. Just perceive it with raw, pure awareness. Notice what happens to your mind while you do this. The internal commentary stops. Why? Because when your full visual, tactile, and sensory attention is engaged in raw perception, there is no energy left over to sustain the verbal chatter of the intellect. You have stepped out of the conceptual world of thought and stepped into the real world of existence. Imagine what your life would look like if you mastered this simple shift. Imagine waking up in the morning, and instead of your mind immediately sprinting into a marathon of worries, you lie in bed for 2 minutes, feeling the warmth of the blanket, listening to the morning birds outside, and feeling the quiet rise and fall of your breath. Imagine walking into a difficult meeting at work. Instead of sitting there with a racing heart, rehearsing your lines and feeling defensive, you sit in your chair fully anchored in your body. You listen to others with complete, undivided attention, not planning what you're going to say next, but actually listening. When you speak, your words don't come from a place of panicked ego. They come from a place of calm, grounded clarity. People in the room instantly sense your presence. They feel an unspoken authority, a quiet stability that draws them in. Because in a world of frantic, distracted, hyperactive minds, a truly present human being is a force of nature. Imagine coming home to your family at the end of the day. You close the door on your work. You sit down with your partner or your children. You look into their eyes, and you are actually there. You hear their stories. You feel their presence. You taste your dinner. You laugh with genuine ease. You aren't checking your phone every 3 minutes like an addict seeking a hit of dopamine, because you don't need an escape from the present moment. The present moment has become rich, deep, and entirely sufficient. Imagine going to bed at night. You put your head on the pillow. You feel the weight of your body. You bring your attention to your inner field of life. And within 5 minutes, your nervous system settles into a deep, restorative sleep, because there is no ghost hunting going on in your head, no imaginary battles being fought, no old stories being replayed. This is not a utopian fantasy. This is not reserved for monks, mystics, or spiritual teachers. This is the natural, healthy, uncorrupted state of human consciousness. It is your birthright. The external world will continue to be chaotic. There will still be economic shifts, traffic jams, difficult emails, physical illnesses, unexpected delays, and complex human personalities to navigate. Presence does not mean that the storms of life will stop blowing. Presence means that you become the mountain. The wind can howl around the peak of the mountain. The snow can fall. The rain can pour. The lightning can strike. But the mountain does not shake. The mountain does not run away. The mountain simply stands, vast, deep, rooted, and unshakable, allowing the storm to pass around it. You are not the fragile, frantic, anxious voice in your head, trying desperately to hold your life together. You are the mountain. As we come to the conclusion of this journey, remember that this realization is not a one-time intellectual goal that you reach and tick off your list. You don't understand presence once and then live happily ever after. Presence is a moment-by-moment choice. It is a muscle that you build through gentle, consistent practice. You will forget. I guarantee you that you will forget. Tomorrow, or maybe 10 minutes after you finish listening to this, a trigger will happen. An annoying notification will pop up on your screen. Someone will cut you off in traffic. A family member will say something frustrating, and in a flash, your threat detection system will kick in. The pain body will wake up. The voice in your head will grab the microphone and start screaming, complaining, analyzing, and worrying. You will get pulled back into the trance of psychological time. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Do not say, "Oh, I failed. I'm not present. I'm terrible at this." The very moment you realize that you were lost in thought is a moment of pure presence. The realization itself is the awakening. In that moment of realization, take a breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Drop your shoulders. Drop the story. Smile at the absurdity of your own mind and gently bring yourself back home to the now. You don't have to fix your entire life today. You don't have to figure out your whole future. You don't have to solve every problem waiting for you in your inbox. You only ever have to handle this single exact moment. Ask yourself right now, in this microsecond, is there a true physical emergency happening in this exact second? Not 5 minutes from now, not tomorrow, right now, in this single breath. Are you safe? Is your body functioning? Is there air entering your lungs? 99.9% of the time, the answer in the immediate now is yes. Everything else is just a story being generated by a machine in your head. Step out of the story. Step into the room. Unclamp your grip on the past that no longer exists and let go of your fear of a future that hasn't arrived. Take a deep breath. Release it slowly. Welcome home to your life. Welcome home to the now.